We'll start this gentle class on our backs. You can come to the ground, make yourself comfortable. Good. When you're ready, you can close your eyes or just look up the ceiling. And feel your shoulders relax, let your hips relax. Start to notice the weight of your body sinking towards the ground. Let the muscles relax in your arms and your legs. Feel the muscles relax in your face. Notice if you're clenching your jaw. Make a little space between your teeth to let your jaw relax. If your mouth is open right now, try closing your lips and just breathing through your nose. If that's uncomfortable because you're congested or for any other reason, you can breathe through your mouth, but just give it a try first. As you feel your whole body beginning to relax, notice as well what your breathing is doing. And if you're able to breathe through your nose, just feel how your breath starts to slow down into a steady rhythm. And if your mind has started to drift to something else, try to bring your awareness, your attention back into your body, back to the sound of your breath. Notice any parts of your body that are tensing. And continue to feel your breathing slow down. place them on your belly. Let your shoulders and your elbows relax into the ground. Try to breathe a little more deeply, sending your breath down so that you feel your belly lift or expand just a little bit as you inhale, and then feel your belly shrink back inward as you exhale. This doesn't have to be a huge breath in, really expanding, just starting to feel some movement in your belly. If you'd like, you can take a couple more breaths, maybe breathing a little more deeply. It's up to you. It can be useful as you're deepening your breath to try picturing your diaphragm, that sheet of muscle that sits right below your rib cage. And you can picture that diaphragm pushing downward, expanding downward as you inhale. And then picture it slowly lifting back up towards the rib cage as you exhale. As you finish your next breath, let your arms, your hands rest on the ground. And let your breathing just return to an easy rhythm. If you can breathe through your nose, keep breathing through your nose. You can gently roll your head from side to side, just really small movements. Bring your head back to center. If your legs are straight, bend your knees one at a time and slowly slide your feet in towards your hips. And the feet flat on the ground. You can lift your toes up and just wiggle the toes around. Maybe move or circle the feet. And then place your feet slightly apart. And feel your whole foot from all of your toes to your heels. Grip the mat. And then start to lift your hips slowly off the ground, just to a hover. And then slowly place the hips back down. Do that a few times, just noticing how that feels across your lower back and in your hips, your legs. And the next next time you lift your hips, try lifting up a little higher and feel that you're using the muscles at the backs of your legs and your glutes to lift up and then slowly come down. And keep going, lifting up and down, each time maybe trying to lift a little higher. And as your hips are lifting up higher, make sure your weight stays on the whole foot. So your weight isn't rolling out to the edges of the feet. The knees aren't splaying. And the next time you lift your hips, pause with the hips in the air. Feel your heels push down, feel your toes grip the mat, your big toes and your little toes. And see if you can squeeze your bum a little more, extending your hips. And at the same time, gently pull your heels back so you feel that your hamstrings are also working. And slowly bring the hips down. And then one more time, we'll lift the hips off the mat and hold there. And squeeze your glutes. Feel your heels just gently drag back. They're not actually moving, but as you pull the heels back, you'll feel your hamstrings working. These two groups of muscles, your hamstrings, your glutes, are ones that aren't really working so much if you're sitting a lot or sitting for extended periods. So it's nice to feel those muscles work again. Good. When you're ready, start to slowly come back down. And then slowly bring your knees in and gently rock your lower back. And hold your right knee towards your chest and slowly straighten the left leg out. If that feels like too much, you can bend your knee and place your foot flat. And if you want to circle your right foot while you're here, you can move the foot, spread the toes, and circle in both directions. Switch legs, bring the left knee to the chest, and either place the right foot down or straighten the right leg out. You can also circle the left foot in both directions while you're here. And bring the right knee over the chest with the left. Place your feet flat. And scoot your hips to one side as you roll up. You can come to your hands and knees. Spread your fingers out wide. Feel the finger pads grip the mat and make space between your knees. Good. Push the tops of your feet down, push your hands away from the mat, and then look down between your hands and see if you can tuck your chin back to lengthen out the back of the neck. So if you feel like you're kind of here, the shoulders are up towards the ears, the head is dropped, just try pushing away from the ground, making some space in the shoulder, in the neck, and at the same time looking down and tucking the chin back. Just stay here, breathing normally for a couple of breaths. Try to imagine your crown is being pulled forward, stretched forward, and at the same time your tailbone is stretching in the opposite direction, so you're getting a sense of lengthening through your whole spine, from your neck to the base of your spine. And take one more slow inhale and a long exhale. And then we'll start to move the spine. You can tuck your tailbone, round your lower back, slowly round your upper back and relax your neck. And take a breath in as your tailbone lifts. Your lower back arches, the upper back flattens, and the head lifts. And then tuck your tailbone round your spine, slowly relax your neck. Inhale as you lift your tailbone, arch your back, and gaze forward. Exhale as your spine rounds, your tailbone tucks, your shoulders round. Inhale as you lift the tailbone and arch the back. And keep moving, a couple more breaths. There's no rush with your breathing or with the movement. Back to a neutral spine when you're ready, somewhere in the middle. Make sure your finger pads are still pushing away from the mat. I just lost my train of thought. Give me a second. Oh yes, shoulder blades. Okay, look down between your hands again. Feel that length at the back of the neck. Your chin is tucked. And then without bending your elbows, let your chest slowly lower towards the ground. And as you do that, your shoulder blades are going to move closer together on your back. Good. When it feels like you can't go any lower without actually bending your elbows, slowly push away from the mat, feeling your shoulder blades spread apart. And as you're doing this, try to keep lots of space in the neck. So the shoulders aren't lifting, they're just sliding closer together on the back. Do that several times, just slowly pushing the shoulder blades towards the ceiling, keeping the elbows straight, and then slowly let the shoulder blades slide together as your chest drops down. If it doesn't feel like anything's happening, just keep trying in the way you think it should be. And I think eventually it will start to feel like something is happening. Just a couple more times, spreading the shoulder blades apart on the back, letting them slide closer together on the back. Good. And then find your middle position. You can give your hands a little break, maybe come off the hands and move the fingers, move the wrists. And then just once more, bring the hands down, spread the fingers out, hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Good. Feel your hands push away from the mat, your gaze is down. And try not to Let the position of your spine change at all as you slowly lift your right knee off the mat. And then also slowly extend your leg back. You can try to imagine there's something balancing on your back, something delicate, a glass of something, and you're trying not to move that object balancing on your back. And feel your right heel stretch back. If this feels challenging, just work with your legs. But if you feel like you can add another element to this balance, lift your left hand. You're trying to keep that object balancing on your spine, completely still. You're just very slowly going to reach your left arm forward. Reach through the fingertips. And keep looking down at the ground as you breathe. Your right hand is pushing away from the mat, away from the ground. Good. And then slowly place your left hand down and place your right knee back under your hip. Good. Keep your spine as it is. Start to slowly lift the left knee and then straighten the left leg out. So that imaginary object balancing on your spine is still staying really still. And you can stay here with just the leg extended or lift the right hand and slowly reach the right arm forward. Your spine is really stable. Try to keep your breath moving in and out of your nose. You're looking down. Good. Then place the right hand on the ground, the left knee on the ground. Take your hands farther forward. Shift your hips forward and lower your belly to the mat, to the ground. You can rest your head on your hands here and let your feet come apart just a bit. And feel your breathing start to slow back down. And then with your head still resting on your hands, or even on the mat if you prefer. Push the front of your hips into the mat, into the ground. And then begin to lift your legs off the mat. Your feet lift, your kneecaps lift, but the legs stay straight. If the front of your hips are indeed pushing into the ground, you should feel this movement in your hamstrings, in your glutes, similar to the bridge that we did at the very beginning of class. So aim to feel something in those muscles as your legs lift. And then gently lower your legs back down to the ground. Let your hips relax. If it feels good, you can rock your hips from side to side. And then try that again. Push the front of your hips into the mat. Lift your legs. Again, feel your hamstrings, feel your glutes. And this time, take your legs a little wider apart. Notice if you start to feel more side glute muscles working. And the hips are still pushing down into the ground at the front. And try taking your legs wider again. Maybe you feel those muscles on the sides of your hips, the sides of your glutes even more. And one more time, if you can, go a little wider. Separate the legs. Hold there for a breath or two. And then slowly bring the legs closer together and to the ground. Relax your legs, relax your hips. Okay, we'll try this one more time. Yeah, one more time. So push the hips into the ground, lift your legs back up. And take the legs a little wider apart. A little wider. A little wider. And wider still. Good. Slowly let the legs come closer, bring them down, rock your hips and relax your muscles. Place your hands underneath your shoulders. Push away from the mat. And let your hips come back a little bit until the hips are above the knees. Reach your hands a little farther forward. See how it feels to drop your forehead down. Maybe it can rest on the ground. If that's too far, just let your neck relax with the head slightly lifted. And then feel a stretch from your fingertips all the way back to the hips. Try slowing your breathing down, breathing in through your nose, filling your lungs. And then softly breathe out through your nose, maybe even controlling the exhale so it's a little slower than normal. If your forehead is on the mat, lift your head. Take your hands a few steps over to the left. You can drop your left elbow if you want and reach a little more with the right fingertips, and then relax your neck again. As you reach with your right fingertips, gently pull back through the right hip and feel more of a stretch through that right side of your body, around your shoulder. Take one more slow breath in and imagine you're breathing into that space underneath your right arm, into the right side of the body. Let the air out slowly. And take your time as you come back up. Walk your hands to the right. You can drop the right elbow and reach a little more with the left fingertips. Relax your neck. Maybe rest the head on the ground. And feel your left gently pull back. Take one or two more breaths, breathing into the space around your left shoulder, the left side of your body. And begin to lift your head and come back up to a tabletop position. You can step one leg forward, lift your chest, tuck your back toes under, and slowly step to the top of your space or top of your mat. Take your feet hip width apart. Rotate your palms forward. Relax your shoulders. Try to visualize length through the spine again as the crown of your head reaches or stretches upward. At the same time, your tailbone is stretching or reaching downward. And breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your nose. And rest your hands on your hips and take a wide step back. Turn your toes in the same direction. So you have a pretty wide stance. You can angle your feet in slightly so that your whole leg really is angled in a bit. So your knees are in line with the toes. Try to stand up really tall here and feel how there are muscles around your hips that are working to get that rotation inward of the legs, of the knee, of the foot, of the whole leg. And you can keep your hands at your hips for now as you grip the mat with your feet and slowly begin to hinge forward. So you're bending right here at your hip crease. The spine stays long. And you can stop whenever you feel like it's challenging enough for your legs to hold you here. So that might be right here. You feel, oh, you know, my legs are kind of working hard here. This is challenging. It might be a little bit lower, but try not to bring any part of your body to the ground for support. Try to just use the muscles of your legs. And if you want to add a little extra challenge for your legs, you can reach your arms out wide, spreading the fingers. And then bring your hands to your hips. Slowly come back up without bending your spine, staying straight. Okay, and we'll do that one more time. So just check your feet haven't moved. It still feels like from the hip down, you're working to just gently rotate the legs inward. Then keep the spine long. Hinge from your hip, right at this hip crease. And go slowly enough that you really can tell when you've reached your limit, where you feel like you can still control this movement. Either keep your hands where they are at your hips, shoulders back, or take your arms out wide like an airplane. Bring your hands back onto your hips. Take your time as you lift up. Good. Then we're going to take the feet in the opposite direction, so toes turned out. I should say the whole leg is turned out. Your feet are turned out, your knees are going to be turned out, and your hips are facilitating that rotation out. And once you feel like you have a comfortable turn out, try bending your knees. Just notice in what direction the knees bend. Sometimes our toes can be turned out pretty wide, but then when you bend the knees are significantly narrower. If you find that that's the case, just turn the toes in a little bit, bend again, and see if you can keep your knees and your toes in one line or at the same angle, I guess is what I'm saying. So just experiment a few times, bend, adjust, and then when you feel like everything is at the same angle, your hip is rotated out, the knee and the foot are in line, come down to a comfortable bend. And place one hand at your belly, one hand at your back. Just rock your hips forward and back, noticing if you are very rounded through your lower back or very arched through your lower back, and find a happy medium. Good. Notice as well if your chest is very broad here, if it feels like your rib cage is flared up, or maybe your rib cage is tucked back and the upper back is quite round, and find a happy medium there as well. Good. Maybe you lower the hips a tiny bit more, keeping the knees wide, toes out. Take a breath if you're holding your breath. Good, and then slowly straighten out your legs, relax your hips. I'll do that again. We'll start to bend your knees. You're lowering straight down, so your torso is pretty upright. Good. Check again. You're in a neutral position through your hips and your lower back. The rib cage is floating right above the hips. It's not splayed out or up. It's not splayed back. I'll add something a little different this time. If you want to try, you can bring your arms up into a cactus shape, this 90-degree bend at the elbow. Spread out your fingers. Feel your shoulders pull back. Try to keep that neutral spine, so even as you're drawing the shoulders back, you're not letting the rib cage lift or pop out. Good. Take 2 more breaths, nice and slow. Relax your legs, bring your arms back down, and move your hips. Good. And then turn your feet back to the middle. You can step to the top of your space, the top of your mat. Separate your feet and rotate your palms forward. And close your eyes and feel the crown of your head stretch upward to your tailbone down. Relax your shoulders. Notice if your weight feels even or a little off on your feet. Just adjust your weight on your feet until you feel like you're gripping the mat evenly with the big toes, the little toes, the heels, the edges of your feet. You can open your eyes. Breathe in as you reach wide and up. Stretch upward. And as you exhale, start to bend your knees, let the hips go back, and dive forward. Relax your neck and your arms. Let your whole upper body feel heavy. The knees are bent here. Let your weight rock forward and back until you feel that evenness on your feet again. Let the head feel heavy. Relax your neck. And place your fingertips on the ground. Step one leg back and drop your knee. Step the other leg back and drop your knee. And sit back, bringing your legs in front of you. And roll to your spine. Find a similar comfortable position to when you started class. You might like to have your legs out straight and wide. I tend to prefer my knees bent, feet wide, knees together. It's up to you. Let your arms rest in a comfortable position as well. As your muscles relax again into the ground, bring your attention to your breathing. See if you're able to slow your breathing back down. slowly move your fingers. And let your head roll from side to side. And one leg at a time, bend your knees, place your feet flat. And then roll or turn to one side. Bring your knees up in line with your hips. And you can cradle your head in your arm. With your eyes closed, use your top arm to push yourself up. Sit comfortably on your mat on the ground. Relax your shoulders. One last time, visualize the crown of your head stretching up, your tailbone stretching down. Follow a couple of breaths in through your nose and out through your nose. Start to slowly blink your eyes open. Thanks for doing that with me. I forgot to say at the beginning of this video, Happy New Year. It's been a few weeks since I've recorded a class. So hopefully next week we'll be back, or I'll be back. Okay, see you then.